Hi lads, summer's here and it's getting a little bit more humid below the waist. Now I've got a question for you. Have you heard of the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped? Well, you should have if you've listened to the Talking Walls podcast over the last month. My next question for you is, have you purchased it? And if not, why? Because it's a wonderful bit of kit. It's perfect for shaving your front, your back. I do my beard with it, and of course other regions which I won't disclose. It's perfect for keeping yourself a little bit more trim. Now you're around the pool, now summer's here, now you're around the beach. So yeah, I use it, I think it's fantastic, and I believe that we may have a little special offer for you.
Yes, Matt, we certainly do. Our followers can get an extra 20% off and free shipping on the Performance Package 4.0 by using the code TalkingWalls at manscaped.com. The Performance Package 4.0 will include the Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer, the Weed Whacker 2.0, which is an ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver, which is your ball deodorant and spray toner, alongside your disposable shaving mats, Manscaped boxers, and your travel bag. So head on over to manscaped.com using the link in our description and use code TalkingWalls for 20% off and free shipping. That's the code TalkingWalls at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Hello and welcome back to the Talking Walls Transfer Podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper, and today I'm joined with none other than Dave Azzopardi. Dave, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's pretty hot in it again today. We've been moaning that the weather's been crap.
How was the weather on your during your break?
Yeah, it was really good, mate. It was about 28, 29 in Portugal. So yeah, it really hot. Got burnt as a classic Brit. My nose is peeling, my forehead's peeling. And they're not the only things that are peeling. But we'll move on. Before we go, you're on holiday as well, aren't you, Dave? Next week.
But I've just seen that the weather, there's like heat waves all across Europe. So I'm not a great fan of the heat, like pure heat. So yeah, it could be a long weekend for me, to be honest.
You'll have to get your factor 50 out, mate. I know in Spain, in some parts, it's going up to like mid 40s. So it's prime tomato growing weather. But I do fear for your complexion a bit. But saying that, being Maltese, it's quite olive complexion.
The rest of my family are all right, but I went to I don't know if I mentioned it on the last podcast. I went to a football tournament in Aldridge, and it was freezing because it was really cloudy. And I got home, and my whole face was burnt. I thought I'd had an allergic reaction, and then someone texted me saying, "Are you burnt after today?" I was like, "Yeah, it must be that." And I was peeling the rest of the week. A crusty skin.
Crusty skin. You need to get a bit of E45, mate, and you'll be well away. But Dave, we've got lots to get into today. It seems that there seems to be the rumour mill start to be turning a little bit more now, but apart from one deal, nothing really seems concrete. But one deal that Wolves do look to have ruled themselves out of is the deal for Alex Scott, the Bristol City midfielder. So TalkSport reported today that Wolves have in fact pulled out of the race to sign a midfielder, and Bristol Live have reported that Wolves' initial bid of £18 million was rejected by the club earlier this week, and the club aren't willing to increase their offer. But Bournemouth now, Dave, seem to be favourites, but they offered £15 million earlier this week. So Wolves have offered the biggest money, but still quite a way off Bristol City's valuation of 20 to 25 million.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be... I think this was always going to be something that was spoken about quite a lot throughout the window. There was a lot of clubs, not just Wolves. There was obviously Bournemouth who have been involved, Brighton, West Ham, Tottenham, I think all interested. So he's hot property, to be honest. And I think it's just one of those at the moment. It could come towards the end of the transfer window and see, with Bournemouth's offer. It sounds like Wolves, like you said, may have offered before, but with Bournemouth's offer going public, it might drum up that little bit more interest and get Bristol City closer to their valuation. Interesting that obviously Wolves have bid that amount. That obviously hadn't come out as public until today. And it will be interesting to see if Wolves stick to their word about that £18 million and not going over it. Wolves bid again in last January, and it was under that valuation again. But it had said in that same article that Lopetegui was a big fan of him then. He's still a big fan of him now and wants to target him. So it'll be interesting to see if Wolves do go back in for him, or if Bristol City come back to Wolves and make some sort of compromise. But I think the it's been made pretty clear, and I've read this a couple of places in regards to him and his playing time. He doesn't just want to move to the Premier League. He wants to move to the Premier League and be playing football as well. I don't think he'd get that at places like Newcastle. I think we're another team, Newcastle and Tottenham. I think places like Bournemouth, he'd be pretty much an automatic starter. Wolves, I don't think he'd be the first name on the team sheet, but get plenty of minutes. So we'll wait and see. But it's a difficult one, I think. But it is one that you feel as Wolves fans that if we don't get him, it's probably one that we'll look at with a little bit of regret in sort of 12 to 18 months' time.
I think it was always a bit of a pipe dream just because of the asking price that they've put on him. And you look at the likes of Gyökeres, who's just gone to Sporting for around 20 million. I know, obviously, Gyökeres is a goal scorer, but they're probably looking at, they've just got 20 odd million for a player who's got 1 year left on his deal, who's a little bit older. We should be holding out for that kind of figure, but I struggle to see where he would fit into. And again, we don't know how Lopetegui is going to set up next season, but I struggle to see how he fits into the current setup. Whether you play him a little bit wider, because he seems to be, he's been deployed from Bristol City in kind of, say, wider areas, just kind of the left or right of the midfield. Whether we could play in there. So, I mean, similar to how Nunes was deployed last season in various other positions. But I don't know. I think Bristol City are in danger here of pricing everyone out of the deal, and you're going to end up with an unhappy player and Dave. It may be something that Wolves revisit later on in the window.
Yeah, I think it is something like that. I think it'll get towards obviously the championship season's only just over 3 weeks away now, I think. So I think this is something that Alex Scott would probably want to get finalised from his point of view before then. So I think in the next week to 14 days, it's going to be something that, continues. But I think the most important thing, and I know Wolves fans are getting fed up of it, and we're still seeing a lot of things about, a lot more rumours about selling. Thankfully, on today's video, there are quite a few in regards to players coming in, but a lot of the rumours that we're posting, a lot of stories that we're seeing is about players leaving the club. But I think I had a look at the squad earlier. The squad is still massive. If you include players that have come out on loan and players that haven't really got rumours about leaving the club, at the moment, all Wolves first team players, including the likes of Kundal and whatever, Wolves have still got 34 first team players. That squad is way, way too big. And I think that's what fans need to consider. We don't know what impact the likes of Giles may have, Kalajdzic may have, Fabio Silva if he decides to stay at the club. But 34 players, I've included, players like Bruno Jordao, Dion Sanderson, Bolla, they'll probably all move on. But that's too many players. And I know Wolves fans are desperate for incomings, but we still need to let players go.
Yeah. Do you understand the frustrations from some fans who have suggested that if this was a Mendes client, that the club would be happy to put down 20 to 25 million pound on him? Look at Silva, Semedo, Guedes.
I don't necessarily think that would be the case. I mean, as of today, I think there's plenty of Mendes clients still out there which have probably got similar potential that Wolves haven't gone for. I think if this was 12 months ago, I could probably understand the frustration, but Wolves fans know that we've not cut ties completely with Jorge Mendes, but sort of keeping him at arm's length a little bit more. So, I don't know. Like I said, I think it is one that I'm worried that we will regret, and I'm using even people like Morgan Gibbs-White, who obviously I felt we got great money for last summer, and he has really kicked on. And I feel like Wolves, Alex Scott's just got that sort of feel about him. But let's wait and see. I think if he was, I think more clubs than Bournemouth would be the ones bidding. If he was sort of the level that some of our fans make out, if I'm completely honest, but I still think he's a good player and one that should be considered. But if Wolves have set themselves a sort of standard of how much they want to pay and what sort of caliber player they want, then fair enough. But
yeah, it's been reported previously that they may be willing to bend their targets and finances to make that deal happen. But I know when we had Stu on, the Bristol City fan, when Dan Bentley signed, he said that Alex Scott was the best player he's ever seen for Bristol City and will be in the England squad in in a few years' time for sure. Dan Bentley himself has even said, "Get the checkbook out." So he's obviously a real player in there.
It's not a really a priority position for me either,
No,
though. Like if
same.
you had a young English striker, like 19, 20-year-old in the championship that just bagged yourself like 15, 20 goals, and it's a similar sort of fee, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. But it's for me, it's not a priority as of right now. So, you know, if somebody like, I don't know, Lemina or whoever in central midfield was moved on, then maybe, yeah. But I think we've still got 3 or 4 really good players who are capable of playing Premier League football at the moment.
I don't necessarily think, and this could be why it may be a bit more of a priority. I don't know what his chance creation's like, but I don't necessarily feel like the striker is the problem. I feel like it's those who play around him that are the problem. Look how many gilt-edged chances we created last season. I could probably count them on 2 hands.
Well, I was on another live stream earlier this week with a couple of Wolves fans talking about this, and I said, like, the issue we've had the issue 1, 2, 3 years. So Nuno's last season, Bruno Lage, and obviously last season, we've averaged less than a goal a game. In that time, we've had Jimenez, we've had William Jose, we've had Fabio Silva, Catrone for little spells in there as well, and whoever else had played up front at any point. And all of them, you know, aren't hitting the amount of goals that Wolves fans want. But it's not like we're going out after every week. We're coming back from games thinking, flipping it, Raul Jimenez should have bagged that one today, or how did Raul sky that one? That's not happening because we're not getting the ball in the right sort of areas. I think from the preseason clips, I know it's very small amounts of the games. From what we're seeing, they're all very, very similar goals. Use those wingers, hit that ball across the face of goal, and we're getting the ball in the right areas more often. But I think you are right. The creativity has to come from the central areas and the wide areas a hell of a lot more. And that's why, you know, even without Neves last year, when he was suspended for a little bit, we did see sort of almost a more creative side to Wolves, a bit more free-flowing. And that's no disrespect to Neves, obviously.
Yeah, but we talk about goal scorers, chance creators there, Dave. It looks like Wolves are edging closer to completing the signing of a person who does both of those in the form of Matt Doherty.
Yeah, I couldn't believe this one when it came. I know I've already held my hands up a couple of times. Team Talk was the one that broke the news, and I think historically, like back in the day, Team Talk were quite a reputable source, but in more recent times, they've been very hit and miss. But yeah, then obviously it was the Athletic and Express and Star had sort of jumped on it as well, and we had an update from Fabrizio Romano today. Look, I'm not completely against this move. I know again, there's been probably a lot more negativity on social media than I expected, but I'm not fully against this move. I think if the likes of Johnny are going to move on, Boller, whether that's a loan or sale, and Keanu Hoover as well, I think as a backup player or at least a rotation player, experience, like you've already mentioned, I think since our return to the Premier League, he's the 8th highest, I think, in terms of goal contributions. I think he's been gone for 2 years.
That stat,
yeah, but he'd been gone 2 years, you know, so he wasn't here very long during the Prem. Well, say what, 3 seasons in the Prem. So I'm not against it, and he's someone that has Premier League experience, which we are still lacking in this club at the moment.
I can't believe he's coming back. If I'm totally honest with you, mate. It concerns me a little bit because he went to Tottenham, we'll say okay, had a good spell for a few games, gone to Atletico Madrid and played about 14 minutes of football. Was predominantly played as a wing back for Wolves in a system that really suited him, and in terms of returns, did really well. We're now playing a back four. This signing doesn't strike me as a signing that Wolves all at the start of the window said, okay, we want to play like this. It doesn't, but then I also don't feel that every single player has to fit in within that key criteria that's set by the sporting director and Lopetegui. Sometimes players come up that they may want to take a punt on, such as Doherty, because he's got that Premier League experience. He knows the dressing room well. Not necessarily a leader, but just an older head, can play left back, kind of, can play right wing back, can play right back. You don't know how you're going to set up, but for me, just I don't know. It's just not a very ambitious signing, is it?
I appreciate it's not ambitious and it's not probably exciting like fans want or expect. But I think if this was in the midst of like us signing 3 or 4 players, I think people would appreciate the signing a little bit more. I think it's the fact that it looks like this is going to be our first sort of, again, if we disregard Tom King who signed, I think this is going to be our first big signing, really, our first proper signing. So I think that's why it's a little bit disappointing for fans, really. But I don't know. I think it gives Lopetegui a little bit of flexibility. We saw at times, although it didn't work out fantastically, we saw at times him switch to a back five when he tried to see out games. I think that gives him that little bit of flexibility from that point of view as well. I think he did it 3 or 4 times. It probably only worked once, but with a little bit more time to work on things like that, to see out matches and bringing Doc on as a right wing back, then fair enough. But yeah, it looks likely that it's going to happen. I think I said it on another video. There were other options there for him as well. I think Palace were one, Fulham were one, and obviously clubs in Saudi as well. But I'm not against it anyway. I think we just wait and see how he gets on.
It's strange though. I feel like, and you've probably just to touch on your point there, this transfer will probably be judged as the overall window. Say if we've already made like 2 or 3 more first team signings, you'd be like, okay, it's a shrewd bit of business, available on free, well experienced. But because this is like the first real outfield incoming, not taking away Tom King, I think fans, the optics of it don't look great, do they? But and we know as well as anyone how the narrative changes on social media after a couple of incomings. And I think fans are just feeling a little bit downtrodden about the lack of activity and the rumours that are out there just about players going out the door.
Yeah, and well, again, I saw a couple of posts about him being worse than the players that we got there. I completely disagree with that. I don't get how you can rate Doc lower than Keanu Hoover, who struggled, at Stoke City, who struggled, Johnny, who's been really, really poor, and obviously Bendergood's Bola, who I'd be very surprised if 2% of this video, of the people watching this video, have watched him play before. So I think that's disrespectful to Doc really. But look, I think he'll just be fine. He'll be a good signing.
Another link that's come out of Argentina today. Today it come out quite some time ago, didn't it, Dave? A few months that Wolves are interested in Boca Juniors midfielder Cristian Medina. It was suggested that both Wolves and Fulham are interested in the midfielder, but it's been reported, Dave, and I think you correct me if I'm wrong, in the last couple of days that his release clause of £11.5 million has been published.
Yeah. It was a few weeks ago. A journalist had basically said Wolves and Fulham are interested, and then another journalist, probably slightly more reputable, had said 2 English clubs are reportedly interested in him. But again, another talented player, South America, which is obviously an area that Wolves, particularly under Matt Hobbs, have sort of targeted, and well within that sort of price range that Wolves are reportedly looking at as well. So this is quite important. Players like this. I mean, Cristian Medina, very off the top of my head, I don't know his age. I'm going to quickly search him. So he's 21 years of age, only just. So at the start of the season, you still won't need to register him. So I think for Wolves, that's quite important because going back to sort of what I mentioned earlier about the amount of players that we've got, we could get away with it a little bit more previously because Ain't Nori, Pedro Neto, they were all classed as under 21 players and we didn't have to register them. Now they're up in that sort of 17 player foreign player limit. So players like this, whether that be Cristian Medina or another couple of players that we talk about in a minute, that's quite important for Wolves to add depth to the squad. So are they any better or more talented than the likes of Joe Hodge and Luke Kundle? I don't know, because obviously they fit the bill quite nicely for Wolves. But if there's an option or a player there that Wolves think has great potential and can make serious money on in the future, then so be it. Go for it.
Yeah, just a little bit more on the player, quite highly rated over in Argentina. Having watched a few clips and very limited, as you can imagine, don't really get access to a lot of the Argentinian football leagues. He looks like, even though he's only a young lad, very kind of aggressive in his play, like almost like attracts contact so he can roll players and go past them. Similar kind of, I'd probably say similar kind of like play style to João Gomez a little bit, but maybe a little bit more agile. So remains to be seen if anything happens with that day. But we'll touch on the next rumour now as we're talking about players coming from South America, and Wolves are reportedly interested in Sao Paulo defender Lucas Beraldo, and that's according to Goal in Brazil. Now, Wolves have not actually sent a formal proposal to the club, but it's given indications that Wolves could offer close to £7 million. Whether the Brazilian club would want more money. Now, Dave, this player is someone who has been linked with a load of top clubs already, only 19 years of age, left-footed centre-half, and he's definitely highly rated amongst top talent scouts across the world. Superb ball-playing centre-half, and looks a real talent.
Yeah, quite a few people raving about him yesterday. I think the difficulty with this signing is the ownership of him at the moment. So, luckily in the UK, we don't have any of it where certain agents or certain other clubs own a percentage of a player. Obviously, we have it more as sell-on fees and so on. But with the difficulty with this player is I think the player owns 20% of his own rights. Another club owns a certain percentage, and then Sao Paulo only own about 60 to 70% of him. So Sao Paulo at the moment are trying to buy out the other club's percentage to obviously make a little bit more money. So if Wolves want to go for him, I think they have to buy out obviously Sao Paulo's percentage and then this other club's percentage as well. So it makes the deal a little bit more confusing. From what I read, I would imagine, obviously you've said there that Wolves apparently would put around €7 million on the table. It sounds like they would want a little bit more than that. But again, I think even if you sort of double that or a little bit more, go up to sort of €15 million, again, you're in that price range that Wolves are apparently looking at. And for a top talented young player who, again, don't need to necessarily register, like I've already mentioned, again, probably will accept for now maybe getting slightly more limited numbers. So almost bringing Lucas Beraldo in as somebody to almost replace Nathan Collins. Beraldo is a left-sided centre-back, left-footed as well, which I think is a bonus. So I think this one makes a lot of sense for me. If Wolves can sort of figure out the difficulties in regards to the ownership and so on and bring him to Wolves, I think this could be a really interesting piece of business.
Definitely. Not the biggest, 6'1", so obviously not the smallest, not the biggest. You think about centre-halves we've had over the years, they're all around the 6'3", 6'4" mark. But it suggested that Wolves do want to replace Collins in the transfer market, Dave, and he's only 19 years of age. He probably isn't going to come and slot straight in. So again, it could be a shrewd bit of business for the club.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people moaning about the Collins deal for argument's sake. I think if for argument's sake, and this is one of my best the best reasons why I wait till the end of the window, because if Wolves sell Collins or sold Collins for 23 million or whatever with a nice sell-on fee, which they have done, and bring someone of Beraldo's caliber and potential in for half of that, I think that, and a player that's left-sided, who's probably got more value in the future, I think that would be a very, very clever piece of business.
Yeah, just a note on the Collins deal. So Wolves signed him for around £20 million. They got about £23 million for the fee from Brentford for the defender plus add-ons. Most people see that going down on FFP as only a £3 million profit, but with FFP and amortisation. So, Dave, do you remember whether Collins signed a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal?
I'd assume it would have been 5 at Wolves. Yeah, Wolves tend to give them the 5-year. I will double check that as we speak. Yeah. I'm fairly certain it's a 5-year.
Yeah, so over time and amortisation, so that 20 million will be split over 5 seasons. So essentially, Wolves have made a lot more profit than what it looks. So 20 take away for 16. So it's essentially 23 million, take away 16 million, then you're left with your profit. So that's how much profit they've got left, which is, I believe, 7 million.
Quick maths, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
my maths is absolutely terrible, by the way. Yeah. So I don't want to sound like Eni Aluko. She said he's got, what is it? He's scored 20 goals in 40 appearances. That's nearly a goal a game. Do the maths? Yeah. So the risk of sounding like her, but yeah, that's how it's worked out on the balance sheet. But talking about goings again, Dave, Jose Sarr has been linked with a move to Nottingham Forest, and that's according to the Telegraph. TalkSport have also reported that Wolves are expecting a bid. It's Sarr could be working under one of his previous employers, Dave.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. Again, I think someone whose position was sort of going into the new season was sort of unclear. I think again, he's one of those players where I think fans wouldn't be bothered either way if he stayed or go. I'd be happy for him to stay at the club, but I can also understand why the club would want to move him on. I don't think he's a player that Lopetegui particularly would. It doesn't really work with the way that Lopetegui wants to play. We're playing it out the back and so on, and we saw that at times with the ball at his feet, it was a little bit shaky. So yeah, from what we understand, obviously the Dean Henderson deal to Forest is difficult at the moment with Manchester United. I think United will probably be holding on to Henderson until they sort out a goalkeeper themselves. And if Forest don't want to wait much longer, then Sarr is obviously the option. It was funny today. I'm not sure if you saw it, Football Daily, who were part of Sky Sports. David Ornstein was talking about the Onana to United deal. I mentioned Dean Henderson and then mentioned Jose Sarr. And Football Daily put it as if Manchester United were targeting Jose Sarr. So a few people had sent to me saying United want Jose Sarr. I watched it. I was like, nah, I don't think that's the case. But yeah, an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see how this one works out. But again, for me, I'm not bothered either way. But I think if we do sell him, I think we make a healthy profit. And I think it obviously gives an opportunity to look at a few different goalkeepers that we've been interested in previously.
He had a really poor season on the whole for me. Probably a victim of his own success because the first season I thought it was outstanding, David. It's quite clear that Lopetegui isn't too sure or doesn't quite fancy him. You saw the rotation with Bentley over the last few games of the season. How much do you envisage Wolves would get for Jose Sarr? Bearing in mind they brought him for around 6 or 7 million.
Yeah, I think you could easily demand closer to £15 million for him, 10 to 15 certainly. So I think you make a healthy profit on him. And then goalkeepers don't tend to have much value unless you're talking a top quality world class goalkeeper. Like I know a lot of people are going on about Yassine Bono at the moment from Sevilla. I think he would be in and around that budget even, or if not even less. So. Yeah, I think for Sarr, you definitely make a profit anyway. It's just a shame it's the Forest.
Yeah, well, they thought they got a really good deal with Gibbs White, which it looks like they have. So let's try and trick them into feeling like they have with this one as well. So finally, Dave, before we draw to a close, Pablo Sarabia is attracting interest from Turkey.
Yeah, well, Turkey tax, as we know from this podcast as well. But yeah, to be fair, the account that posted this one, I got quite a good following. But yeah, Pablo Sarabia he started both games in the sort of first half with if I'm honest, a stronger team in the preseason friendlies that we're aware of so far. And again, I mentioned this on a live stream earlier this week. He's a player that came in last season. He just had twins, I think, with his missus. He had barely played at PSG, so he wasn't completely fit. And he did okay the opening, the early stages under Lopetegui, but for some reason was sort of, looked past for the last few weeks or so. But I'm really hoping this year, full preseason in Wolverhampton or, with the team at least, and really kick on. I would keep him in and around the squad. Again, valuable experience, but still a quality player. And we saw that, 12 to 18 months ago, he was getting fantastic amounts of goal contributions to Sporting. And I think he can repeat that again this year for us.
The Galatasaray want to sign him, but on loan with an option to buy. Dave, just like to get your thoughts on that.
Loan with option to buy. The only one I would be satisfied, and I'm not even satisfied with this, would be Guedes, because he's just a waste of space. But anyone else in this squad is a flat no for me, and I think Wolves must have learned from that. We've seen the Ryan Nori rumours, which have been sort of shut down today. The Fabio Silva rumours, which sound like Wolves wouldn't be interested in a loan again. So yeah, loan with an option to buy is a no from me, and I think Wolves surely have learned from that mistake since Scott Sellers has gone.
Yeah, I mean, the Fabio, it seemed, like you said there, Dave Fabio, it doesn't look like the Wolves want to really let him out on loan. If he's going to go, it will be for a fee of around 25 million euros. Lazio Sevilla have apparently asked about a deal for him. Ryan Nori there was reported to have been in talks with Nice, but Liam Keane has since said that there are, I think he said the clubs are interested, but Wolves want to keep him for the time being. So literally anyone is up for grabs at the minute.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is a bit of a fire sale. I know people have used that sort of GIF and picture on some of our replies recently, but just need some movements coming in. I think if it was busy with stories coming in, the panic wouldn't be so bad. But like I said, it's still a huge squad at the minute. But I think, Wolves are back in England today. Players are returning from internationals. I keep saying it every week. I just think in the next few days it might kick off. I thought by the end of this week it might kick off a little bit. I'm really hoping this weekend, early next week, that's when we're going to see some deals get started. And I think, again, the Matt Doherty deal hopefully is the start of a domino effect where we just start to bring players in.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen with Adama Traore, not under contract by Wolves anymore. A free agent looks set to have joined AC Milan, but doesn't look like that deal's going to happen. I know Roma are interested, but haven't put a deal forward. Dave, what are the odds do you think that he comes back to Wolves?
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Like,
because Wolves haven't announced anything yet. Have they, considering he's out of contract?
No, I don't know where or sort of Wolves sit in terms of his priorities. Like, I think, like, AC Milan, Roma would be great because, they're top teams in their division. They're in European football. If failing that, where does he fall to? Would he prefer a move to Wolves or Turkey? Or again, Turkish teams like Galatasaray have sort of been linked to him as well. But does he rank Wolves ahead of them?
You would do, wouldn't you? Like, no disrespect to anyone who follows Turkish football, but I know that they're huge clubs and bigger than Wolves. But you've got a question playing in the Super League, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, Galatasaray, like, they've spent quite a bit of money recently. Yeah. Or at least they've started to bring some high-profile players in. So I would be intrigued. But yeah, again, a few people have sent me sort of that tweet from Fabrizio Romano about his future today. So I don't know. I wouldn't be completely against it, but I just still think the squad is a little bit too top heavy at the minute in that sort of area. If we are to sell players, we need to replace them with players that we know are better than who we've got now.
Yeah, I think a move to Saudi might be on the cards for Adama, mate, if none of this materialises.
I'm surprised Nuno's not been all over him, to be honest. I think him whipping balls into Benzema, Kante winning the ball, spraying out to Adama, whipping the ball into Benzema. Bosh.
Football, simple.
There you go,
game,
Nuno.
mate. Yeah,
exactly.
Anything else you want to add, Dave, before we shoot?
I think that's all, mate. Yeah, just relax, Wolves fans. I'm sure things will work out in the end. I hope.
You broke the news about Louis Molden moving.
Oh yeah, although I completely wrong.
You were close. You got the wrong Manchester team.
Yeah, someone replied saying this is false information. I was like, who's this bloke? And I looked, and his only replies were to Tony Roberts. I was like, shit, he must know Tony Roberts, So, but yeah, wrong team. But yeah, it looks like he's going out on loan. I think it might have just been confirmed.
Yeah, it's just been confirmed to go to Rochdale. Not big news, but. Nearly, mate. Nearly, but not quite.
Easy mistake.
Easy mistake to make. Dave, it's been a pleasure, mate. Where can people follow you should they wish to?
Thank you. Yeah, it's at Dave as a Party on Instagram and Twitter. And I mentioned it last week, Freds, but I don't think I've even logged on in the last week or so. So
my follower accounts are going up and up and up, and I thought I must be dead popular. But when you join,
Instagram followers, isn't it?
Yeah, when you join, you can auto follow. But I've not posted yet. I'm on Threads.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly look. I don't even know how much followers I've got on there. I'll have to have a look.
Yeah, I'm M Cooper Writes and Matt Cooper Bites on all various social media platforms. How many followers have you got, Dave? You see?
I'm just on the Talking Wolves. Talking Wolves one's doing all right. That's got like 1,500 followers. I haven't tweeted on there for like a week.
Tweeted, threaded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wonder what it is. Posted.
Threaded.
I've only got I've just got under 300. That's a bit under.
That's more than me. That's more than makes me look small fry. Anyway, we are Talking Wolves across all social platforms. If you are new here and you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe. We really do appreciate it. If you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well, please give us a 5-star rating. Doesn't matter what you put in the comments. You can put anything that you want. Any two hosts that you'd rather host it. You can even put you'd rather George be back. But yeah, if you are listening to that, give us a 5-star. Make sure you comment down below with your thoughts on the rumours. And until next time, hopefully we've got a substantial transfer through the door that isn't Matt Doherty. Until next time, take care.